Welcome back to the Liberating Humanity podcast. My name is Paul Hutchinson. This is part 2 of Meet My Beautiful Wife. Last time we went through her history before she met me, not all of it, but a lot of the highlights of her acting career, of some of the challenges that she had in that career, her charitable heart, amazing life that she lived. Now we're going to move forward to just the highlights of the last 5 years. We're going to talk a little bit about the charity work, building the Child Liberation Foundation, a little bit about her movie that she did here in the US, where she was an assassin who kills assassins. That's kind of fun. And we're going to talk about an undercover mission that she went on with me before her movie came out. So this is going to be super fun. I think you're going to love this episode. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Here we are with part 2.
Part 2.
We met in Haiti a little over 5 years ago. So that was 2019.
Actually, it's going to be 6 in a month.
Almost 6 years ago. So
yeah.
We met in Haiti. And I was in Haiti on, I had done a bunch of undercover work in Haiti. And a man by the name of Jim, who had done some work with us undercover in Haiti, I was at his funeral. And there's a lot of questions around his death. I will say this, he was bringing down the most powerful corruption in that country. We had arrested some really bad traffickers and some corrupt judges, and he wanted to see how high that went, and unfortunately is no longer with us. And I was at his funeral, and while I was there, I'm standing in line at the airport, and this beautiful woman standing right behind me.
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly there. It was like 2 weeks that we were there. I don't know. I was pretty sweaty, and I don't know what you were seeing as beautiful, but thank you.
She was in her, what were you wearing? Overalls? I don't know. But,
just like sweats and a hat, and
yeah,
I don't know about beautiful.
So this beautiful woman, beautiful heart, standing behind me in line, and we started talking about why we were both there, the charity work that she was doing, the charity work that I had done, and she realized that she had been donating to the foundation that I was working with at the time for many years. Mm-hmm. And of course, because I was still undercover, didn't know who I was. I didn't have a public face like we do today. And we sat and talked for hours. We happened to be on the airplane. I was in the very last seat of first class, and she was in the very front seat of comfort. And I leaned my seat back, and we talked all the way back to the U.S. And then we spent all evening, all the way until the sun came up, just talking.
Yeah.
Just talking about the rescue missions she had. She wanted to know about every one of them. One of them. And so we started dating. Now, I have to tell you this story because I think this is just beautiful. I joke and I tell people that I created my wife. I kind of did. So here's a cool story, guys. Okay, so I was at I'm going to tell the audiences because you already know the story. So I was at a Tony Robbins event. So Tony called me, and we were talking back and forth, and he knew that I had some connections with some people that could really use his big conference. And I had some connections with some great people that it would be fun to introduce him to. And so I offered to bring some of those people there. One of them was Glenn Beck, a great, wonderful man, huge supporter of a lot of the foundations that I've worked with in the past, and just a huge heart. And so flew there with him and his son. And there's a part in Tony's conference where he has you identify something in your life that isn't where, usually it's business, right? You identify something in your business that is a goal of where you want to be a year from now or 5 years from now. And you write down in detail what it looks like, what it feels like, what it, just everything about what that change in your business life is. And I realized I've done this so many times. I did it to help create a multi-billion-dollar company. I used it to help create the foundation and all of these things, the power of the mind and the power of your voice and of writing things down is amazing what it can do in your life. And it's not just writing it down so you can remember what you're thinking about. I've realized that writing things down literally sends out this energy wave to the universe around you and attracts those things into your life, or in some cases creates those things in your life. And so I was in a super difficult relationship. I was on my second marriage and things were falling apart there. It was just super, super hard. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to use this to create that perfect relationship. And at first I was writing down, my relationship with, and I was talking about the girl I was with at the time. And I realized, no, I need to change that to my relationship with the woman in my life is. And this is how the woman in my life shows up for me. And this is how I show up for her. And this is what happens, is how she interacts with my children and me with hers, et cetera. And all of these details on this perfect relationship in my life. And I wrote down everything in detail. And I'll share it. I'll actually share it at some point on one of these podcasts. And it's beautiful, all of the details there. Well, I forgot to write in there that I needed somebody with a somewhat clean mouth that didn't use the F word all the time, right? And somebody that wasn't from New Jersey.
And drank beer.
And drank beer, right? I forget about those things. But all the important stuff I had in there. All the important things of what a really healthy relationship looked like. And fortunately, by that time, I had done the work to qualify for a relationship that was really healthy. I hadn't done that work before. I was still Paul effing Hutchinson, and I had this arrogance and this ego and this greed and this energy that just didn't jive with somebody of this caliber. And I had started doing some guided meditation, plant medicine journey experiences, some things like that helped me change my perception of myself and what I really wanted in the future, et cetera. And so I wrote all of these things down, detail, pages of them. And within a couple months, I'm in Haiti, and everything on that list, she was, everything. And I'm just super grateful. So
ditto.
I just, so I did, I created her. So moving forward. So what did you think when you meet this guy in the airport in Haiti? No, this is the girl I stole from Superman. Now, technically, she was dating him a little while before that, but she was not interested in dating Superman, but she was interested in this dude she met in Haiti. What's that about?
Well, for one, I have this beautiful, beautiful gift of seeing through all of the outside and really feeling into people's hearts. And you have the biggest heart I've ever generous in the ways that you give from here, and that I was fascinated by all of your stories because I'm a sucker for children. I love children. I have so many kids that have called me mom throughout my life. They haven't lived with me or anything, but I have so many, of babies' friends that I just love them. I love children. I just love mothering them. And we're not talking about kids. We're talking about you. I don't want to mother you, but the fact that you were rescuing all these children and I saw your heart and your passion for it. You were very genuine when you were telling me these stories. I felt while you were there. And that really captured my heart. And the more that we talked, the more that I wanted to get to know you, and the more that I was fascinated by you. And on the last one, we spoke about the no blender, and I saw in you a no blender. And the more that I got to know you, it was like, he's not even like 10 men in a blender. He's like 50 men in a blender. I don't know. anyone in my life. I don't know anyone or know of anyone that does as much as you do. If I were to put an age on you for all the things that you have done in your life, you'd be like 500. You know, what we do in a day, in a week, in a year equalizes to what people, do their entire lifetime. And I love that. I'm not a monotonous person. So one of my requirements for this no blender guy was to not be bored. Holy shit. Did you cover that?
We're not bored.
Oh.
This last 2 months, we were in Thailand, meeting with some people that had some healing retreats there in Thailand, and then we flew to a different part of Thailand for actually a meditative healing ceremony for us and our family.
His modalities help other people heal.
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
Awesome. This was a cool story. This was we were in Thailand. We meet some guys who were Qigong practitioners that had trained with this guy named White Tiger. Just amazing trainer. Now he has over 60,000 practitioners around the world, right?
Yeah, and 100 master teachers.
Yeah, master teachers, over 100 master teachers. And he made a promise that he wouldn't ever show his face to promote himself. And so you don't see him anywhere, but his practitioners are everywhere. And he is this guy is high demand. Very few people get a chance to even sit down face to face with him. And one of the practitioners that we were with found out that I was the executive producer of one of the executive producers of Sound of Freedom, and that I had been on the mission. And
he had told her that he wanted to see that movie. He had told his students, you got to go see this movie. And I believe she said that he mentioned that I got to find a way to work with them. I want to team up with them. So, and boom.
Yeah. So the next week she calls White Tiger and he clears out his schedule.
Yeah.
So that we could go spend an entire week and learn some different modalities. Because one of our goals within Liberating Humanity is to, and even in the Child Liberation Foundation, is in identifying different modalities outside of all of the pills that Big Pharma can feed you and the traditional therapy that 20 years of that doesn't work. How do we really implement change? How do we help people release that trauma and energetically just cleanse themselves from all of that crap that they've been holding on to from their childhood trauma, et cetera? So we've been actively studying different modalities and breath work and meditation and different tools. And so that was exciting there. And then from there, we fly to India.
And also we had some beautiful meditations there and met some wonderful people, the Prince and the Gupta family that are also in alignment with changing the world for it to be a better place.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because I think last month we had like 6 countries in 6 days. We were sleeping on a plane. Well, you were sleeping on a plane because I still gotta adjust to the sleeping on the plane. But it's not just the travels. It is the essence of why we're traveling so much and why we come to all these places and the people that we're meeting. And it's not vacations, it's truly just it's looking and teaming up with people to help elevate humanity and consciousness in the world. And this is why you're my no blender.
Yeah. So from there, we flew. We were there for a couple weeks.
Mexico.
Went to Mexico. Yeah.
Also for another seminar with
some of the producers at Telemundo and
Yo Soy Amor. Yeah. And it was beautiful there. We met wonderful people also in the energy work, also helping others elevate themselves and heal themselves. And then we went where? Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, yeah, of healers as well. A lot of people don't understand is that music carries with it a certain frequency that is depressing. There's some people that say that even back to Nazi Germany, they purposely changed the the frequency of traditional music in America
Mhm.
for the purpose of creating depression and
Yes.
anxiety, et cetera. That if you instead do music with 432 hertz or these different frequencies, that it can elevate consciousness and elevate your mood instead of create anxiety and depression.
And this is important. I want to touch a little bit longer on this because it's important for people to understand that everything, this microphone, ourselves, this ring, the shirt, everything that is a matter that exists has a frequency. We are frequency. Our emotions run on a different frequency. This is why sometimes you meet with certain people and they're always moody and they're always complaining and they're always depressed. It drains you. And why sometimes you can meet and go into rooms with other people that are alive, that are positive, that are, happy, and your mood elevates. Whatever mood we're in transfers because we're all 99.99999 energy. It's important to know that when we're listening to music, when we're watching TV, when we're reading books, when we speak, the things that we say, that we think, because even our thoughts run on frequency, just like emotions. It's not like, oh, but how's that so? Well, how does your Wi-Fi work? Can you see it? No. Okay, same stuff, same thing. So when we're listening to music, it's important to understand that when we're listening to, music that is trashing on life, on humans, on women, on men, on sex, on all these negative things that music, we are absorbing that, and we become what we listen to and what we surround ourselves with. So it's important to understand that what we watch on TV, what we listen to, the people we hang out with, the things that we say are all contributing to what this world looks like, because we're all connected. And so, be careful what music you listen to. Be careful what movies you're watching. Be careful the things that you're saying. It takes the same amount of effort to use a negative word or a negative expression towards something than to use the positive. I don't know why humans are so inclined. Like, you see somebody gossiping about something, everybody comes together. You see it in the news, something happened, a gossip, or somebody did something, everybody wants to know. Somebody did something good for the world, it's like crickets. It's important to understand we need to consciously start changing these things that we do, that we get attracted to the negative, to the gossip, to trashing people. Don't do it. Don't do it not only because of you trashing others, but because of yourself. That's when you are bad mouthing someone else, you're carrying that energy in you. And the energies and emotions that we express and that we feel get transferred, get formed into chemical reactions that your brain releases and that go to all your body. That's why you see that people that are grouchy, and they're mad all the time, they get old fast. They're always sick, and people that are happy, they live longer and they look younger. And so it's really important to understand. And one day we should do a podcast on frequency. It's frequency. The entire universe is formed on these frequencies, and there's good and there's bad. And where you put your energy, that's what you start creating around you. You see, like when you're in love, everything is beautiful and all good things happen. This is because you fall in love and you're in a happy mood, so you start attracting all that. That's why good things happen when you first fall in love and when you're in love and you're happy. And bad things, like when you get up in the morning and you're like, just another day. And then from there, bad things keep happening. Somebody cut you off and you ran out of gas and you this. And this is because you're carrying that energy. So that's what you're attracting. So be very careful where you put your energy towards. And I just wanted to focus on that because a lot of people don't know that we are creating our atmosphere, our world.
Yep. We were in Costa Rica.
We
were in Costa Rica with a bunch of musicians that were and some conscious creators, right? These were musicians that were specifically focused on creating something in the right frequency, etc. And so it was a beautiful event. I was a keynote speaker the last night that we were there. We spent a few days with them, and then literally we had to drive because there wasn't a flight that got me in time. We had to speak there. The next day we're speaking in Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
We get in at 3 a.m. into Dominican Republic. I'm on stage at 11 the next morning, right? And so we get a couple hours of sleep on stage. And then, of course, everybody wants to talk to us about the foundation, how they can help. So many beautiful hearts. This was a family office conference. Now, for you people who think, oh, it's only the rich who are doing bad, you know what? Poor do bad, rich do bad, everybody does bad. And both of them can do good as well. And the one thing I love about those people is they had worked really, really hard for some very big checkbooks that they can now make massive impacts in the world if they choose to, right? And so I love speaking to some of those groups because these are guys who can, they could feed an entire village for a year with one check, right?
Exactly.
And it's super beautiful to see people like that. And then of course we get done talking to everybody at midnight. 1 a.m. we're on our way back to the airport because we have to catch
New York.
Texas from there because we were speaking in Texas the next day.
And then to New York. Yes, you're right.
And then to New York where we were on that big podcast and then back home. It was, 6 countries and
in 6 days,
6 days.
literally.
Crazy.
Yeah, so you never bore me.
So anyway, let's go back. We get together. We start building the foundation. I already had the Child Liberation Foundation before, but really the Child Liberation Foundation was more it was a place where I could put my money that then could fund some of the rescue missions that I was doing and pay for the security guys and the other operators, et cetera. It wasn't anything I was raising anything for. I was working with some other foundations at the time, but I didn't want anybody else's money to ever pay for my trips, my undercover work, my whatever. I wanted to contribute in all areas to that. And so that's what that was for. Well, then you came on and started working with some of the aftercare. You did a number of different ops. In fact, you went with us to Ecuador. And why don't you tell the audience about the girl whose mother was killed when she was 8.
Carmen, that's my little child that actually her stories has inspired a lot of the new projects that we have on CLF. So this little girl was 8 when her mother died and her father was an alcoholic. And so because he was an alcoholic, she got placed in her aunt's house. And, she was living there. By the time she was 10, her uncle started raping her. And she tells her aunt, and whether her aunt believed it or not, she said, "You're so ungrateful. We take you in and you start making up stories." And of course, that spread throughout the whole family. And she's, the orphan that lives there that's ungrateful. And so she was kind of like the outcast of the family, and years go on. And she's 15 and she's still getting raped by the uncle and nobody gives a shit. And she's living this life. Well, she was in school and it's important. Her story is really important because most children get lured and groomed. They don't get kidnapped, So she tells me that, on her way to school when she was 15, he started, this guy just, started talking to her on the way home and she would ignore him, but he kept doing it every day. And so eventually they became friends. Eventually she tells him her story of what's happening to her at home. Like he asked her to be his, that he would protect her, to be his girlfriend. And, shyly, whatever, but he keeps doing it, and sweet talk in her ear. And one day he tells her, "Why don't you come live with me in Peru?" And what other options does this little girl have, Like with as miserable as she is feeling because of the life that she has. She takes the offer. He sends her a ticket. He sends her $30 and she jumps on a plane and she leaves, the aunt's house and she goes to Peru. When she lands in Peru, he takes her shopping. These were very sexy clothes. When they arrived to the apartment, there's another 2 girls there that were his girlfriends. And he tells her what she needs to do in order for her to live with him and be his girlfriend. And, and he took her passport and her, her documents away. And she has to bring him $1,000 a night out of prostituting herself in the corners where he told her where the other girls were working too. And I asked her, what were you charging to sleep with a man? And she said $50. And she said, if they're foreigners, sometimes I could charge 60 or 70. And so this girl's sleeping from between 20 to 25 men every single night. And there were some nights that she didn't bring home the money. And this is the sad part. He beat her so bad that she was hospitalized. And a girl like this, where does she go to? Who does she turn to? Who can she ask for help? It was better for her. He was a better option for her than her going back to her family that treated her the way that, they did. This girl was rescued because we had previously gone to Ecuador, and you guys had tagged the traffickers. So by the time that we rescued her, it was her third time that she was in a hospital. And because she was tagged, the feds were able to pick her up and put her in the safe house. But, her story is one of millions of stories of things that happen to children because they don't live in an environment at home where they're supported, where they're loved, where they have somebody to confide in. Somebody, she just lost her mother. She has no family. Her uncle's raping her. And her auntie, whether because a lot of times, this is true. A lot of times they do know. A lot of times the mothers know that the fathers are raping the daughters. And they're too scared to do anything about it. And we have case after case after case where the father's raping and beating the wife, and, they're doing it to the kids, they're doing it to the boys, to the girls, to everybody, and they have nowhere to go because we don't have a system that has places where these kids can go to heal. And the places that do exist, unfortunately, most of them don't have the right healing programs. Don't have, most of them, the kids get to be there up to 6 months. What are you going to do in 6 months when you don't even have a specialist that's treating this trauma? And these are the things that I know that we're going to change, along with an army of people that we are joining forces with. I know that we're going to change this, but I want to talk about this because I want people to understand that this is happening in so many places, and it's happening here in the States. Just the other day when we were driving to Miami, the lady that approached us, that it happened to her and it's happening to her daughter. And then they went to the law and nothing was done. And so if our governments and our governmental institutions aren't going to do something about it, we can. If we all get together, I know we can. I know we can join forces and do this. Everybody can give a little something. Everybody. And so later we'll get into this. But so we rescued her and she's healing. She was there for a while. They let her go. 6 months go by. They let her go. And I'm following up with Isabel. I'm asking her, and in one of the calls, she says she left. I said, "Oh, why? Oh, her time's up, but she's doing much better." And I was like, "Oh, okay, good." I always check up with Isabel. How are things doing? I called back a few months later. She actually reached out to me. She goes, "Hey, guess what? Carmen showed up to my door. She's pregnant." And I said, "What happened?" And she says she has a boyfriend, but I don't think so. I think she's back out on the streets. And she was back out on the streets, and she's pregnant now. What is the life of this child going to be? And she was sick. She actually had to take her to the hospital, and we helped with those through the foundation to get her the care she needed. But, and this is something that's generational. What kind of life is this child going to have? They go back into prostitution because they're not healed. They don't have anywhere to go to. They don't have any skills. They don't have any support, economical or even emotional, that they can go to, and they end up prostituting themselves. They end up back doing drugs or becoming alcoholics, or they end up with a pimp. And now this time they looked for the pimp. So they're telling themselves, I'm no good because I got rescued and I got out and now I'm in by choice. And the self-esteem that they have and the way that they think of themselves, and the lack of self-love that they have because they're not healed, brings them back on the streets and brings them back to doing the very thing that they were rescued from. And you can't blame her. Like most of them, most of the women that are out prostituting themselves, if they're not being trafficked or if they're not being controlled, they don't know anything better. And they're so wounded. That's the best that they think that they can do. But it takes just somebody caring and giving them the tools. If we give them the tools, they'll make the other choice. They won't go back on the streets. If you teach them a skill, you give them the opportunity to have a job or to make something on themselves, I assure you that none of them would choose to be on the streets selling their bodies. They don't want that. They really don't. And that's where we all have to come together and figure out, how can we all help? What can we all do to make a difference? Because it doesn't have to be one person that changes this. Together, if we all contribute to helping all these humans heal from the trauma that they have been to, they'll heal.
And in addition to healing that trauma is, as bad as we can sit here and just hate her uncle.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what a horrible situation. Here she was, 10 years old, being brought in by this aunt and uncle, and he's raping her. And we can sit here and say, okay, that uncle should go to prison. And yes, he should, right? He needs to, the laws need to change. They need to be in favor of helping these children and making it easy for them to witness and put these guys away. But in addition to that, from a pure compassionate standpoint, is it possible for us to help him before he ever rapes her, right? After he's already crossed that line, you know what? He's wasting my oxygen. Let's let him heal, but let him heal in a place where he's not going to hurt children anymore. But what if we could go back and I'm betting that horrific man, as we would call him, was raping that 10-year-old girl. I'm betting he was traumatized as a child. He was probably 7, 8 years old, some 15-year-old or 35-year-old or whatever else did some very damaging things to him and damaged him emotionally and physically to the point where he grew up angry. He grew up hateful. He grew up wanting to inflict harm on others because he was carrying that pain inside. And so, as humanity, to fix this problem as a whole, yes, we need to heal the Carmens of the world, those little girls, those little boys. And we need to rescue them. We need to pull them out of that horrible situation. We need to give them the skills they need so that they can live a normal life and not go back to that prostitution. But in addition to that, we need to find all the others that are like them, that would grow up to be a person like her uncle, if not given the love, the help, the healing that they need. The solution to all of this is healing, to all of it. It's helping her to heal. It's helping, probably she has a cousin somewhere that was probably abused by that same man, right? That is a male cousin that hasn't even talked about it at all. Nobody even knows. And he's growing up and he's got that pain. And he's now 22 years old and he's got a girlfriend. And he acts out of anger once in a while and abuses her and hits her. Why? Because he was abused as a child when that man hit him, right? This cycle of abuse has to stop.
Yes.
And the only way we really stop it is figuring out how to help people heal giving them the tools, the modalities that they need to release that trauma, to realize that that doesn't define them anymore. That's the only way to fix this problem. And I'm so grateful that that's your full-time focus, is in identifying ways to help these victims heal and become, we don't even like to call them victims. We like to call them victors. We got that from Joseph. He was on the show with us. He has this victor camp that he trains these people who were victims to be victors and to move forward and to live a life of freedom from those chains of abuse, those chains of addiction, those chains of anger and hatred and fear and all of that crap they're holding on to because of what they've been through in the past.
Yeah, and who knows if our father also went through some type of trauma, because there's a reason why he was an alcoholic. Usually people end up with addictions because of some unhealed childhood trauma. So who knows, and then the father and then the daughter, and who knows what's going to happen to hopefully, we can help Carmen heal right now. We're in the process so that her daughter doesn't have to go through the things that Carmen went through. But we have to do this worldwide. There's so many of us that live with traumas that we bury, thinking that it's going to go away because we bury them, because we don't say anything. And what it does is it marinates inside of you, and in that burden that you have in there comes out. We don't realize it, but we only operate consciously 5% of the time is our conscience operating. The rest of the time, or 95% of the time that we're making decisions and we're doing things, we're doing it out of our subconscious level. And that's where our traumas live. That's where our emotional, hardships and traumas live on. So we might snap every so often and not know why. And we might make decisions that are not for our higher best, or for our children's higher best, for anybody's higher best. And we don't realize that's where it's coming from. I'm sure that, that addiction to alcohol is coming from somewhere. And who knows if that's coming. It's kind of like the movie that we saw the other day, The Shack, and they killed his daughter, and he was living with that trauma of poisoning his stepfather or his father, and in the movie they show, his father was also, abused as a child. And therefore it made him be an alcoholic and abuse the mother and the child. And then the child, poisons him. And then it's like, God, where were you? And God, God is walking us through every step that we take. But the universe is duality. And there's no light without darkness, and there's no good without evil. And so we need to understand that even though God's walking with us, the devil's also trying to do his work. He's also poking us. So we have to take responsibility and an accountability, for the things that we do. And if we have patterns that, that we have, that we go through years, and things that we do that are not for our highest selves, it's our responsibility to sit down and say, why? Why does this trigger me? Why do I do this? Because sometimes we're like, I can't believe I did. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And we regret some of the actions that we take, or getting too upset at something. Where's that anger coming from? Maybe it's something hidden in there that you haven't, released, that you haven't healed, that you haven't paid attention to, and see what it is. And then, bring it up and then let it go. And all of us have traumas inside of us, but it's up to us to be conscious and to be responsible and to take that accountability, to look within and say, you know what? I don't want to be this person, and do something about it. Because when you have traumas and you raise children and you have partners, those traumas come out in the way that you have your relationship with your partners and your children. So it's and with yourself, when we get into alcohol addictions, when we get into drug addictions, when we're beating up our kids, our partners. We're being irresponsible at work. We're, doing things that are irresponsible and that are hurting others. There's a place where that's coming from, and there's a reason. And so let's be more aware of our actions and pay attention to them, because they gradually grow when you don't pay attention to them. And not only that, your children, diseases don't transfer from one person to the other. Like they say, cancer runs in your family and in your DNA. It's not that way. But emotions do. So let's be very careful, because our children will carry those negative emotions that we don't heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to Ecuador.
Oh, yeah.
You did a wonderful job in helping Carmen move forward through some of her trauma, and you're continuing to help her and a lot of the others down there. As part of that, I did a number of undercover rescue missions in Ecuador, and we took some teams down there, identified a bunch of different trafficking organizations, and unlike the operations we did early on, our goal was to show the operations to the world, right? The Homeland Security agent that I was working with, he wanted to tell the story on every one of them, and in order for him to tell the story, since he was already public on TV, etc., we had operators that were on the ground finding the children. I was there with a lot of them, and we would put together these sting operations in which they would come in then with the cameras, and he would tell the stories of them. But we had to bring the children to this rescue place and whatnot. It was a little bit more dangerous, and in some cases it may or may not have added to the problem. That's a whole other conversation. As time progressed with the Child Liberation Foundation, we realized that a more effective way to do it was to work with the agents of that country and us go in, and because we were Americans, we could easily make friends with the traffickers, because they would come out of the woodwork and offer us things like they would normal Americans. But then we would identify where they were holding the children and geotag that location, or have, if they did bring the children out, just introduce us, have the federal agents tag their car or whatnot so we could find out where they're being held. And then once we left the country, then the agents would go in, the federal agents of that country, and they would do the sting. They would rescue the kids. We would send you and the team in to do some follow-up, et cetera. And so that's how a lot of those operations went. So there opportunity for you. So for many years, Vanessa would say, I want to go undercover. I want to go. And my answer was this. I said, sweetie, until you can beat me in Krav Maga, you're not going undercover, right? And so can you beat me?
And then I smoked you one day. No, but I did get the chance to go, because you had nobody speaking English and you needed to go in when the feds called you. And I was like, thank you. And so, you were having a hard time finding an excuse.
Well, the federal agents called, and they said, hey, Paul, we've had 6 different trafficking rings that we infiltrated, and we'd already taken down 3 of those 6, and there was a couple others we needed to take down, and one of them was she was a madam. This madam was selling children to the Chinese. She didn't speak any English. She spoke Spanish and Chinese. And she was what we call a level 2, right? So she's a pimp. She manages a bunch of women. She sells women. She is a trafficker selling women, and she has access to the children. She wasn't actually holding the children herself. And so the feds wanted us to identify what I call a level 3. That was her supplier. We needed to find out where she was getting the children so that we could do the sting, rescue those children, et cetera. So the problem was most traffickers in Latin America, because they're selling children to Americans, they speak English.
Mhm.
She wasn't selling children to Americans. She was selling them to I needed to find a translator. So Jimmy, who usually does a lot of stuff with me, he speaks fluent Spanish, is fantastic undercover, has done a whole bunch of operations. He couldn't go that week. He was there's some other things he already had scheduled. This was the only time that the feds could have somebody come. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to go down. I need a translator that I can trust. Now, here's the other part of it. I can handle the madam. That's not dangerous, right? She's not like a typical trafficker that's going to, be carrying guns or whatever else. And her supplier was a tranny, right? And so I'm thinking, all right, I can handle a tranny and a madam with my left hand, right? This isn't that dangerous. And I need somebody who can go down. And your movie, the one where you're an assassin, kill an assassin, that came out like the very next week. So this would be like the last chance before your face started really getting out there, right? So I said, sweetie, I need to take a translator. I think this might work. But I had to come up with an idea. How do I convince these traffickers that I'm bringing a beautiful woman with me to be my translator? How am I going to tell that story?
And I say you just picked up a hoe in Colombia.
A hoe in Colombia. I said, I'm not texting that.
I'll text it. Give me that.
I gave her the phone. She's texting him. She's like, hey, I'm going to be down. We're going to, set up this party for my buddy and whatnot. I'm bringing my translator. She's a hoe I picked up in Colombia. So you went down as my hoe. Mm-hmm. And we sent them some money. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was serious. Mm-hmm. So I said to the madam, I said, listen, my boss is needing me to verify that you have what you say you have. I need to, I said, my boss will kill me and my whole family if I taste the candy, but I need to verify you have the candy, and then my boss is going to fly down or everything else. So you need to introduce me to whoever you're getting the kids from. Mm-hmm. And in fact, here's what I'll do. I'm going to pay you $500 for the introduction. I'll send you $500 if you introduce me to the person that you're getting these kids from. And so because she had already told us it was this tranny, so then she gets me the contact information of the tranny. I send another $500 to the tranny saying, listen, this will show you that I'm serious. I'm going to be coming down. I would need to verify that you have what my boss is looking for. And so the tranny said, okay, yeah, I'll introduce you to all these kids, et cetera, et cetera. So we fly down there. We land. Now we have what? 2 days?
Yeah, it was like 2 days.
Before we had to fly to Canada for.
It was 2-3 days. I don't remember.
It was just 2 days because we had to fly to Canada for your.
That's right. That's why the urgency. That's right.
For your.
The TIFF, Toronto Film Festival.
The film festival. Yeah. That's what it's called. Yeah. So we back up a second. It was rough there. So we had to be there for 2 days, maximum 2 days, because we had to fly to Canada for.
Oh, for La Soga, for the movie, for the premiere of the movie. They were screening it in the Toronto Film Festival.
So your movie was coming out on the big screen.
Yeah.
They were gonna and after that, I wasn't comfortable at all with you showing your face in these things. And so we had a couple days down there. And then so we fly in, the tranny, no answer.
Nothing. Crickets.
Why?
When we finally got a hold of the madam, she told us the tranny has sold the children to, another guy the night before. And he had beat up the children and actually slashed one of them in the face. And that was, to them, and it's messed up to say, but it damaged the product. Now she can't sell it for as much. So she got upset and showed up to this guy's house with a bunch of other people and guns. And so the people that had been buying the kids, called the cops, and then the tranny got arrested. But then when we got in touch with the madame, she was like, "Oh, don't worry, she'll be out in a couple of days. She knows the cops." Corruption. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the problem is we couldn't wait 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. So then I told Pablo, I was like, even me, I was like, I'm looking at him like, who is this guy? So Pablo's the sweetest guy, but when he's dealing with
Paul Hutchinson's nice, Paul Stone's an asshole,
Yeah.
right? So I text the madam. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean she got detained? She's like, she got detained. What do you mean she got detained? Oh, she rented out one of these kids and somebody beat her up and slashed her face and now she's arrested, but she'll get out in a couple days. And I'm like, okay, but I don't have a couple days.
Yeah.
And we need to verify that she has the kids. I mean, we had the federal agents there that were all waiting to be able for this sting, and it was dead. It was dead in the water. Now, I knew she had other suppliers.
You're really good at this.
I knew she had some others because I've been doing this a long time, 10 years. I know that these traffickers have multiple suppliers of getting their kids. And so I said to her, I said, here's the deal. I said, my boss needs me to verify you have some kids. Oh, you have to wait a few. I don't have a couple days. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I need the $500 back that I paid you. Because I paid you to introduce me to your supplier and your supplier isn't accessible. Oh, no, I don't have that right now. You can't have it. I said, no, not only that, I want the $500 that I sent the tranny, right? I want my $1,000 back. I know where you live, because I did, and I'm coming to get it. And she goes, oh, no. Wait. I said, well, are you going to introduce me to somebody? Yes, I have another supplier. I knew she did. Okay. So she texts back, she goes, okay, meet me at this restaurant at 2:00.
Yeah.
And so we show up at this restaurant. Now,
whoa,
she's shaking, right?
She is nervous. We show up at this restaurant and she's shaking. She's nervous. She pulls me into the bathroom shortly after we got there. The traffickers hadn't arrived yet. She's like, come with me. And I was like, sure. And as soon as we get to the bathroom, she looks at me and she's like, look, I'm a sex worker just like you, okay? And she's like, do you know this guy? Do you know him well? Like, is he Interpol? Like, what do you know about him? And I told her, yeah, I've worked with him, a few times. I know this about him. If you give him what he wants, he pays you well, and we were in the bathroom for a while. She, I said that. She takes out the Coke, she sniffs and she's like, you want some? And I'm like, oh, it's a little bit early. And she goes, oh, I had this for breakfast. And I was like, 8 a.m. Yeah. And we're in the bathroom and she's talking to me. She's like, hold on. And then she takes out her phone and she makes a phone call and she's FaceTiming somebody. And then I realized she's calling her son. He looked maybe between 3 and 5. He was little. And she starts singing happy birthday to him. And she wants me to sing happy birthday to the kid because it's his birthday. We're at the restaurant. She's singing happy birthday to her kid.
She's selling children
and she's trying to sell us children at the table. And inside of me, I'm like, what the is going on here? And we were in the bathroom for a long time. She was really nervous. And she just kept yapping. And
we found out later why she was nervous. We'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, and
I was worried about her. Here's my wife.
We were in the bathroom for like 10 minutes.
In the bathroom with a trafficker. I'm like, okay, now I don't feel good about this.
Yeah, and I felt that we were taking long, but like what she's
I knew you could
yapping
handle
and
yourself.
talking.
I mean, she was mad. I mean, you could
I wasn't scared at any moment, but it did cross my mind that we were there a long time, and you're gonna wonder what's going on, and all of a sudden the door blasts open.
This is the girls' bathroom.
Yeah,
Boom.
he opens up the door like with a blast, and he goes, you guys aren't partying without me, are you?
That's me. I walk in the bathroom. Boom. You guys aren't partying without me, are you?
And I knew you were wondering what the heck is going on. It's taking so long. And I was like, oh no, never. We come out, and then shortly after
her supplier shows up. Now this is why she was nervous. This is why she was shaking. Her other supplier wasn't another madam. Or it was another tranny. It was Cartel, right? These guys were bad dudes.
And they brought security that was armed?
Yeah, they had armed security with guns and everything. Now, it's illegal to have guns down there, not if you're the cartel, right?
You could do whatever you want.
Yeah, and these guys brought nine victims.
Yeah,
these
were
little girls. They were from
Venezuela.
Trafficked in from Venezuela.
Yeah, and they sat the little virgin right next to you. And so this is the scenario. This is us in the table, Pablo and 2 other, I don't know if we're going to say their names, 2 other operators that are with us. The madams, the traffickers, the ladies that were hosting the children in their house, and the 9 girls. And then there's another ring that's watching us, which is the cartel security armed, watching the table. And then there's a third ring that is the feds watching the cartel security armed guys that are watching us. Talk about.
They were already pre-set up in the restaurant. There was multiple undercover federal officers that were there eating lunch, just watching what was going on. And they were watching the cartel security, who was watching the cartel guys, who was there with us at the center place. And then they sent some guys out and tagged their cars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of it, but this ended up in, they ended up being 24 years and 5 months in jail. So
should have been
kudos
life in jail, but 25 years in prison is
more than what they do in the U.S.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, they tag the cars, and then after we're out of country, boom, they go in and they do the sting. And
do you want to talk a little bit about the situation of these girls and where they were from
and so
why
this
they
was
were
super
there?
sad as well. We think about trafficking. It comes from all different reasons. We talked about Carmen and how, she was in a broken family, and her mother had died, and her father was an alcoholic, and her uncle was raping her. And then she was a perfect candidate for the traffickers that take her. And now she's earned all this money for the traffickers. She's getting beat up. Horrible story. It happens a lot, right? Broken families, runaways, foster care programs, it happens a lot. The other thing that is very, very common with trafficking is in situations like Haiti, where there's an earthquake and traffickers will come in and there's so much confusion. They don't know who's alive and who's dead, and they'll take this opportunity to take these kids and bring them into trafficking. And another one is in political upheaval, like what you're seeing in Venezuela. You've got
poverty,
massive amounts of poverty. Poverty. In fact, why don't you tell them, some of these girls, some of them, yes, they were being trafficked. These men were earning money selling these girls for sex, these children for sex. However, there were some of the girls that were a little bit older. They were 16, 17 years old.
And they were coming back and forth from Venezuela.
They were coming back and forth from Venezuela. And why? What was happening in Venezuela?
Yeah, because one of them, I said, how long you been in Ecuador? And there were 2 sisters that were twins. And then the little virgin that they sat next to you that the trafficker said, why don't you go try her in the bathroom? That was their cousin, And one of them said, oh, I've been here 4 years, of the older girls. And the other one goes, I've been coming and going. And I was like, what do you mean coming and going, right? So I started investigating into that. And she goes, yeah, I've been coming and going for the past 4 years. And I said, and why do you keep coming back? She goes, well, you can make better money here.
Now, this is after the traffickers are taking like 90% of what
they're taking most of it. They get a little bit, but they are making so much less, if that's how you say it, so much less money in Venezuela that is worth it for them to come and make money and then go back. So I was asking, and I asked her, well, like, what's the situation there? She goes, oh, with the situation there, I keep coming to make some money and then I go back. And I said, well, what's the situation there? And she explained to me, well, in Venezuela, you're not allowed to work full-time, even if you want to. You have to work 1 week, take 1 week off. 1 week, take 1 week off. And you make, I think she said you make somewhere like $5 a week, or it was like $5, whether a week or a month. She goes, but then when you go to the supermarket, if you buy a dozen eggs, it costs you $5. She goes, so, we can't make enough to hardly sustain ourselves. So I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, these were beautiful girls, and they were, they weren't ghetto. They weren't like, it was decent. Poor girls, and poverty has taken them to the point that they have to sell their body so that they can put food on the table. So they were coming to Ecuador to make some money so that they can help their families sustain themselves. And to me, that was super sad. Like, because the 13-year-old, she's a virgin. Obviously, the cousins brought her to make some money in Ecuador. What kind of life is this 13-year-old going to have? And it's crazy to think, like, You think these girls, if they had an opportunity to go to school, I'm sure they have dreams. I'm sure that if it wasn't for the situation that they're going through, they would not choose to come to Ecuador and sell their bodies for money while the traffickers making most of it. It's so many situations. Every single kid has such a hard situation, and you come to think about it, and you're like, there are enough resources in the world for everyone to feed themselves in a decent way. There's no reason why those sweet girls should have been there. And the saddest part is that, to them, they're happy to be able to help their families.
Yeah. We saw that with a 10-year-old in Thailand.
Yeah.
She was the most able to make the most money to support the family. She was 10. They were selling her for sex. She had older brothers. She had a father. But she was the one that was responsible for putting food on the table by selling her body. What kind of a world do we live in where that is even a thing? And it comes from two sides. It's the demand side.
Exactly.
Who would pay to sleep with a little girl? Why don't you take your money and your energy and figure out how to create value in that area, create a job opportunity for that family, instead of just satisfying your carnal, lustful, evil desires on this child. We have to fix the demand side.
Yeah.
But at the same time, poverty is a big part of this. It's a big part of it, especially in these countries. And we need to get together. And you're exactly right. We live in a world of massive abundance. There is enough resources where every single person on this planet could be fed every single day.
Mm-hmm.
We could eradicate poverty. We could eradicate hunger, child hunger. We could eradicate child trafficking if we all decided to use that same energy and that same money that we're putting out towards harming people, destroying lives, and instead put it into something healthy. You think about how much money is being put into wars, trillions of dollars, so that we can kill each other.
Such a mafia.
It is unbelievable how much money is being put into destroying other people's lives. And you look in the situation in Venezuela, and you see that all over the world, where you've got abject corruption. Haiti had more corruption everywhere. I could not believe how much corruption, and you can look into it. You can look into how much money has been fed into Haiti through all of these charity organizations over the last 10, 20 years. Where did it go?
Mm-hmm. Right? And let's not go too far. Why are there so many thousands of homeless people in this country?
Yes.
With the amount of money we make. We have the same amount of corruption that Haiti, we just been hiding it better. Yeah, but we have the same amount of corruption here, I mean,
but we have the same amount of trafficking
podcast,
here.
But yeah, exactly.
It's easy for us to see the corruption in Venezuela and the corruption in Haiti. It's easy for us to see because it comes out in abject poverty. It's easy for us to see the trafficking of the children that is there because we can go in and showing up. Guess what? All of those things are worse here.
Yes.
All of them are.
Yes.
And if we're supposed to be the shining example to the world,
we're not doing
why are we the number one consumer and producer of child pornography? Exactly. Why do we have literally, I've heard it said tongue in cheek, but it's true, and it's sadly true, that the favorite American pastime is child abuse because it happens in almost every other home.
Yeah, it happens more often than we know, and we hush about it, and we don't talk about it, and it's not conversation. This needs to start being conversations that we're having at home. We as parents needs to start having that relationship with our children that if something happens to them, we should know. They live in our homes. If a child goes through sexual abuse and comes back home, because most children that go through sexual abuse live at home, how do you not as a parent notice the change there's a big shift that happens in a child when they get sexually abused. We need to start learning what those signs are and learn how to help heal this. And this is what we're going to be doing so that these children can start healing. Hopefully we can prevent the whole thing altogether. And part of it is talking about your private parts and who should be touching them and not touching them, and teach children how to say no and how to protect themselves and how to speak up when something does happen so that we can get help sooner. I mean, eradicating child trafficking has so many links that we have to work on before it ends up there. And it starts with us at home. It starts with that relationship, not only with our children, but with ourselves, Like, let's look, before we start looking at anybody else and talking shit about anybody else, we need to look at ourselves and say, what am I doing? How am I living my life? How am I projecting to my children and to my partners and to everyone that I have relationships with at work, or my friends or my neighbors or whatever that is? And we have come across a lot of children that have been sexually abused. And the way that we are teaching what sex is to our children doesn't communicate with reality. We cannot be teaching our children that sex is a sin up until the moment you get married. One, because you don't just turn a switch on and then all of a sudden it's okay to have sex. There needs to be a healthy way, to educate children on what sex is. And because there is so much sexual abuse that when a child gets taught that sex is a sin and they get abused, and they don't say anything about it because they don't have that atmosphere to talk about it, the only thing they have in their head is sex is a sin and I'm a sinner. Even if they didn't look for that because they were raped. And now they're, living with that burden inside of them that they're sinners. And like I said, this is another whole entire podcast, but there's a lot of things that we need to address just in our everyday lives and how we live it, that are big factors that can help eradicate trafficking.
Yeah, and to fix the child abuse as a whole. And it starts with education. You're exactly right. Unfortunately, a lot of parents, they don't feel comfortable talking to their kids about these things. I so many people are like, oh, do I take my kids to see Sound of Freedom? Yes, you should. Why? So you can have some conversations with them about what that looks like. Because unfortunately, we live in a world where those kind of things are a reality. Mm-hmm. And if we bury them, if we don't talk about them, then they become pervasively worse.
Yeah, and somebody else is talking about them to them.
Yeah.
Other media, the media is teaching sex to children. Now you watch cartoons and they're talking about bisexual and transgender, and it's okay if you don't feel like a girl. If you want to feel like a dog, it's okay. No, it's not. What the
Yeah.
What the heck is going on
those
here?
Those are a whole other podcast as well. Yeah, so we're going to wrap up this one with I'm super grateful for this last 6 years with you and many, many more moving forward. Our undercover rescue mission in Ecuador was one of the last ones that we did. And because we realized that to really eradicate child trafficking, we needed to do more than just the undercover. Now, recognize this, that we're still doing a lot of work with other foundations. Mm-hmm. You can go to liberated.children.org and get some more information, all the things that Vanessa's putting together, a lot of the projects that we do, other foundations that we help support. We have guys that are still doing rescue missions that are still out there. We had some guys in the Middle East just recently with all of the crap going on in Gaza and some of the displacement of families and some children going on there. We had some over in Ukraine recently. We've have sting operations all the time happening here in the U.S. with some of our teams that we're supporting that take down pedophile rings and save the children that would be abused through those rings and getting those guys off the streets. So a lot of good things that we can talk about. You want to leave the audience with any final thoughts?
Yes. As we are building our child liberation new approach to trafficking, we have a program that's called the Get Involved program. If anyone that is watching this is an influencer, has a lot of followers, has a podcast or media, you're an actor or actress, you have a big reach, we have a global ambassador program. If you're interested to sign up. Why? Because we need to teach people and educate them. We need awareness. We need more people to know that this is happening. We have a Healing Hands program. If you are a children's psychiatrist, psychologist, you work with childhood trauma, we also welcome, and you want to, provide your services. We do background check on everybody. So just know that. If you are a company that wants to help fund some of the programs that we're putting together, some of the projects that we're putting together, please contact us. We welcome, if you're a foundation that also helps children with sexual abuse trauma, we like to team up with other people that are in alignment and that are fighting the same evil, that are in alignment with helping children or helping adults heal this sexual trauma. So we have a lot of programs. Please check us out at Get Involved, or follow us on Instagram at Liberated Child or Liberate Children on Facebook. And thank you, mi vida. I love you.
Thank you for joining us on the Liberating Humanity podcast. My name is Paul Hutchinson. This time we've been here with my beautiful wife, Hada Vanessa Hutchinson. We just got married a few months ago, and she's the executive director of the Child Liberation Foundation. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more from us, please subscribe and share this with your family and friends. Thank you for joining us today.